fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my God! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
We are under the lights for the first time the NASCAR iRacing season in quite some time as we recreate what should have been the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series schedule. We're in Kentucky today, and we are getting set for 134 laps around this rescanned, remodeled 1.5 mile racetrack here in the iRacing service. You're seeing it all live right here on the iRacing Esports Network. My name is Ryan Jones. Alongside me, as always, Justin Prince, and Jake Kennedy is behind the scenes as well. Good to have you here, Justin, as always. And, as always, today's race shaping up to be a good one, and strategy as well could be a big question mark too.
Absolutely. These drivers have been preparing all day long and all week long for what's expected to be a very competitive race. This track is completely different, mind you, than how it handled in the past with the different configuration. More banking in 1 and 2 allows the drivers to be able to carry more momentum. But 3 and 4, there's a reason they call it the most difficult turn 3 in all of NASCAR. It's difficult to time up, difficult to stick the bottom, and difficult to make sure you don't cook off your tires. If you hit it the wrong way, you can lose a tenth. And mind you too, with the fuel mileage around here, several drivers may elect to try and stretch it to a one-stopper to get to the end of the race if it goes green.
Indeed, so keep an eye on that over the course of today's race. There we are, Kentucky Speedway, just south of Indianapolis, as we get ready to really change things up after Indianapolis. It was a completely different race and track's what we're going to see today. Big, open, 2.5 mile facility. And now we bring it back down to the 1.5 miles that most of the NASCAR season is contested across. Some variable banking to contend with today. 17 in turns 1 and 2, 14 in 3 and 4. And a little bit of banking there on the straight and through the tri-oval as well. Been open for 20 years now, this track in Sparta, Kentucky. And qualifying is currently underway. At the front is Matt Four-Carper with 29.467.
That's been about the ballpark for the pole throughout the week so far, Kentucky, whether in a open competition or in various different NISs. The difficult part, though, when it comes to building a car running for this racetrack is that difference in banking to make sure the splitter's sealed around the whole racetrack. Several teams have struggled to carry pace past lap 20. Others, they've been able to find that long run pace and pull away by as much as 3 to 5 seconds from some of their competitors. It's about finding that proper medium for tonight And it, again, always crucial with how well you do in qualifying because of how much dirty air is an impact here at Kentucky. It can push you right up the racetrack and lose you a tenth a lap if you don't get out of the dirty air quick.
Yeah, so expect the leader of the race to potentially have an opportunity to pull away if those guys behind really start to suffer in that dirty air in the wake of the car, the wake that the car pushes through the air, as we have 2 minutes left here in our qualifying session. Volkappa's still got it. CJ Lavere has slotted into second place. Seth Knoll, Michael Jeans, Johnny Balderidge just popped up into fourth place ahead of Jeans. In fact, their lap times are identical.
Yeah, some very quick times, but two of the teams we have to watch tonight, in my opinion, here, Ryan, with how well they've done throughout the week. Nexus, they've once again shown some good speed. They came away with the victory with Eddie Kerner on Wednesday night in NAS Open competition. But surprisingly, Elliott Sauer Esports came away with the victory on Thursday and looked very sporty as well, with a combination of Garrett Maines and Austin Yarborough leading a majority of the laps in that race. Both of those teams looking very strong tonight, and you see many of their drivers already inside the top 10 in qualifying this evening. Looking very sporty, but don't forget about Volkappa with Low Line Racing. They've been good the past few weeks on Long Run, especially with their new spring package.
On the Elliott Sadler Esports front, then, keep an eye out on Seth Reiter. He's currently lined up 9th here in this qualifying session. Just a little under 0.3 of a second away from the pole. Looks like, as always, we've got about a half split of drivers opting to do times and those opting not to. Our start time going to be just before sun goes down. So we'll get that beautiful sunset through our camera shots tonight. And Matt Danson just popped himself up into 12th place. Surprised to see him do a time. He's normally one of those drivers that opts to start right at the back, of which there's a few notable names. Will Norton, Jesse Atchison, Eddie Kerner, Justin Levine. They're all opting to go from the back in this one. As qualifying wraps up, and we can take a look at how our field looks for the start of 134 laps at Kentucky Speedway. Through Matt Volkappa on the pole, and you have James Mullins lining up on the outside of row 1. CJ Lavere and Seth Knoll start from 3rd and 4th. Seth the Merchant and Pedro Mega starting on row 3. Johnny Balderidge and Michael Jean starting 7th and 8th. Robert Miller and Scott Crump make up your top 10.
Seth Reiter starts in 11th position tonight alongside Keith Bridgman and one of the F5 machines. Matt Danson starts in 13th. He was one of the contenders Thursday afternoon. He'll start alongside Patrick Moose and his Nexus Esports machine. Ty Ippolito waves the flag for ALD Racing tonight, starts in 15th spot with Joshua Campbell in 16th. Larry Malkin starts back in P17 with Jonathan Hernandez in P18. Cosmin Iachino saying hello to Top Split tonight, starts in 19th. And Boyd Hogan with a surprisingly rough qualifying run rounds out the top 20 for Bobby Dale Earnhardt's Legacy Esports.
Tanner Love just misses out on that top 20 spot. Guy Seeler will start next to him. Adam Jocelyn, Will Norton on row 12. Eddie Kerner, Jesse Atchison on the 13th row of the grid. Justin Levine and Ocean Walsh. And then Eduardo Oliveira, Jake Hickson make up your top 30.
31st spot, Miguel Bento with William Armstrong projected for 32nd. Ryan Carwile starts in 33rd position. The rest of the drivers electing to start at the back, Will Norton, Jesse Atchison, and Eric Jeffrey, have all elected to start Shotgun Charlie for tonight's race here at Kentucky.
Cars lined up diagonally down on pit road, as is the norm with all of the remodeled or new tracks that iRacing have brought in on the oval side over the last year or so. If we could get a camera shot of that, that'd be great, because it's always a great spectacle to see those cars lined up down at the pits. There you go. And track temp for today, 85 degrees Fahrenheit, as expected as we roll into the night. It's pretty cool out there for these drivers. So, expecting, it's like, struggle to get my words out, Justin. What sort of effects do you expect that to have on the cars?
I think with the higher air temp, there may be some drivers who see a little less speed potentially down the straightaways with the humidity, especially. The wind can also definitely be a factor in some of the corners to be able to get the car to stick. But the track temp is more the important thing. It's been talked about by some of the top teams recently, Ryan, that the colder the track, the more loose it gets. Remember in 2019, that was the exact opposite, where it get tighter. So many teams may have looked towards the conditions and said, we've got to adjust the track bars, make sure we get the springs all together before we hit this racetrack, or else they might spin out. The question's going to be, are those adjustments all ready to go for the green flag? Or will some of the drivers elect to risk it and wait until the first caution flag to make the adjustments to take out the looseness?
Well, the way the NAS season's gone so far, I wouldn't hold my breath on that caution. We've seen some phenomenal green flag runs and some fantastic hard racing that has not resulted in an incident. So you're definitely, I think, taking the gamble if you're waiting on a caution. We'll probably get one at some point in this race, but it might not come early for these drivers. So the iRacing.com Ford Mustang pace car going to get on out of the way, and we are going to do battle in Kentucky as Matt Forcarper controls the field. Let's go racing under the lights. Let's get this one underway. Green flag in the air. We are racing, and a good start for Forcarper.
Perfect start for the front runners, to say the very least. And as we've seen many times throughout the season, bottom line is your best friend. If you lose the bottom line at any point during portions of the run, you're likely going backwards. The difference is with turn 3, some drivers can get the top line, the middle line to work, try get passes done. Several drivers getting loose in the corner, starting to bottom up at the back of the field.
It looks like we're staying green as there are cars scattered, going wildly different sorts of speeds. I look like Matt Danson going slow. There's Scott Crump. He was slow as well. He was all the way down to the inside of the corner. He started 10th, and he now finds himself running right at the back. And that was a wild moment through 3 and 4. We all escape, and we continue on. Someone who was blistering through 3 and 4, though, on that first lap was Seth the Merchant. He drove around the outside of a couple of guys. Now finds himself running up in second place, right behind Matt Forcarper, and he's sort of back down to the inside line.
You know, one of the Horizon Racing Team machines, and a manufacturer change, surprisingly. One of the first times we've ever seen the Merchant drive a Ford Mustang in the Cup car. Usually drives in the Chevrolet Camaro and Chevys and everything else he runs, but looking like he feels more comfortable running in the Ford now with the design, taking the race lead to the bottom side.
Should make this one pretty easily down at 1 and 2 as he does at inside. Very strong down there. And Forcarper's going to sit on his bumper, but now goes to the switchback, and he wants to get this lead back. He doesn't want to give it up so easily. So now they run side by side again. Look at the gap between them through the corner. Wildly different lanes being taken by them, and both of them working equally as well as they come out of it neck and neck. Who got that at the line, I wonder? It was Seth the Merchant by 0.003 of a second.
Yeah, both lines can absolutely work, and especially on fresher tires in the first 15 laps. Especially the high line to be able to try and pitch down. The bottom side, though, again, is the shorter way around, and you can get yourself clear if you're sending it right, just like Forcarper's been trying to do here. The problem is the Merchant just is getting those runs off the corner exits.
How does it affect the tire wear then, running the top versus the bottom? I did a truck race earlier this week, and my tires got tore up as I was running a lane or two above the bottom side. Good time early, but then it starts to fade away. Is that just my driving, or is that pretty much the standard?
Can be a mix of both, as well as setup when you think about it, because the driving style, depending on how hard you hit the throttle, if you hit it at the wrong point, can make it go straight off the corner, burn up the right front. If you hit it too early or hit it like a light switch, it might bounce it around like with the right rear tire and burn that out. But essentially, the bottom line is going to be the line most of the field needs to be on once the long run starts to settle on, because that's where, if you try that middle line, it doesn't work as well as it is right now to be able to make moves. And keep in mind, 1 and 2, that line has not been working at all so far. Most of the passes have been in 3 and 4.
Yeah, they're completely different profiles, 1 and 2 versus 3 and 4. 3 and 4 seems a little bit more flatter, more elongated, especially with the fact it opens up onto the tri-oval, and the outside has been more viable there. 1 and 2, you seem to carry a lot more speed through it. The banking definitely helping you out there as you can glue the car to the bottom and roll through the center very nicely. Pedro Mega, look at him up in 4th place. He started this one from 6th and has quietly worked his way up and is now working his way to the inside. Or trying to work his way back to the inside because Seth Knoll has got down to the bottom.
Yeah, and earlier this week on a bit of a hotter racetrack, Seth had been very, very loose. After about 10-15 laps, would slide back around this point of the run. Looking like he's much more comfortable right now, especially with the bit of the cooler track, the overcast skies. Give credit to Miga. We've talked about him a little bit. Miga's actually been very, very stout in the first 30 laps of a run this week. He might be able to hold on for a significant portion of time inside this top 5 as drivers start clutching coasting to keep in mind those temps we talked about.
What to think about as a driver out here while you're doing a cool 290 kilometers an hour, just shy of 200 miles an hour. And some of our big movers early on, the Elliott Sadler Esports driver was Seth Ryder. He's up 5 spots. Patrick Moose is up 6. Boyd Hogan plus 8. Justin Levine in the back up 6 as well.
And something going on with Sergio Lavere. It was talked about being very quick on the long ride. I think he just ducked down for the overheating issues we were just talking about.
Down on pit road. And that is going to be a big issue when it comes to his strategy because he won't be able to make it home from here. And he's going to have to pit again with the field. But now he's going to go a lap down as a result. Look at this battle. Around the outside goes Pedro Mega. And that was a wonderful move on Seth Knoll, who's got to watch out for Seth Ryder, who's carrying some extremely good early run pace here.
Would you look at that up the front, though? Low line racing back up to the point. And this has been their strong suit. Ever since Pocono, this team has found something. With how they've handled that car, especially with how the setup is in some portions of the car, to be able to just run away like this on the longer runs. The longer the run is, the better that team seems to get with all of their drivers. That's now allowed them to pull away a bit. Here's the thing. If they fight for second on back here, that might be Matt's way of trying to run away from the rest of the pack.
Well, Mullins got by to Merchant on that lap as well, so he had a shocker. As soon as he got shuffled out of line, he dropped a lot of time. And he's now got a horde of cars all over the rear bumper of that Ford Mustang. Knoll and Mega continuing to run side by side as they have been for quite some time. Reiter still unable to find a way through to Robert Miller. Patrick Moose is stacked up behind as well. And now Mega right to the bumper, almost a touch. In fact, there was. And he gets to Merchant loose. Now they're 3 wide through turn 2.
And just like that, Ryder just able to jump right on through to take away the top 4. But that's just been the type of race. Looks like some of the Nexus cars now going to try squeeze out Pedro Mega for that.
Here comes Ryder then, up at the front of this train. You can see it in the sea of cars. He's got to the inside of the Merchant, and he's got by. The Merchant then caught off the inside, has had no choice but to allow Seth Knoll down to his left-hand side door. And that should mean Knoll might be able to clear him through 3 and 4, although that outside is looking very strong through the last 2 corners for now. Whether that continues as the run goes on remains to be seen. Either way, it does work out for the Merchant here on lap 15. Over 10% of the way through the race now. This will go by very quickly, this one.
Yeah, usually these types of races, for the 100 laps for A Open, goes by, if it goes green or minimal cautions, about an hour. Tonight projected maybe 90 minutes at the very most, even with some caution flags. That's just the way the race seems to play out here at Kentucky, whether it was the old configuration or the new configuration. It's just that amount of rhythm, and it's a track, mind you, where, yes, there's a lot of potential contact, but it's not one that breeds a lot of cautions right throughout the entire race.
No, racing is generally pretty clean, and as it has been early on here, apart from that impressive moment on lap 1 where a lot of the field managed to escape without dramas. Who was that? Getting a bit squirrely up against the fence. It looked like it might have been Pedro Mega down the back straight, and it was. He lost the spot as a result to Patrick Moose.
Yeah, now he's got damage too. That's going to affect a little bit of the straight line speed. Not quite as much as before. But keep in mind, some of these drivers, on corner entry especially, touched upon it a little bit, Ryan, are having to clutch and coast because they're right in the red on the temps. Usually about this time, in a bit of a cooler air temp, they'd start to drop down by now. But I think with the higher temps in the air, they aren't dropping down like some of these drivers may have expected. At the same time, I don't know if you can just take off the tape because that puts you up for grabs from somebody else who is risking it, passing you later on in the run, and they're still maintaining decent pace despite clutch and coaching.
Every action with your setup is going to have a consequence, and taking the tape off could have consequences potentially even worse than having to manage overheating issues. As Mega and looks like Moose are side by side again, and this is really checking up the 4 cars behind him. It's allowed Eddie Kerner to pick up a spot, and Ippolito was right up on their bumper through 3 and 4. He's going to try to help Mega through and follow him through up on the top side of the racetrack. It seems that Mega might be struggling for some outright pace, but he's very strong up on the top side, which is helping him to maintain his positions.
And that's the frustrating part, I think, here, Ryan, is that speed on the top side is not allowing anyone to make the pass, and he's not giving it up easily, trying to be very defensive. That can really test the patience of some of these drivers because they're losing 0.3 a lap whenever they go side by side like this for some of these passes.
And now finally Moose able to clear once again. Pedro Mega, he will tuck down in line in 8th place. And look at that swarm that he has behind him. That's Ippolito, Kerner, Jeans, Mulliken. They're all ready to try and get by. Eddie Kerner has come up 14 spots now, absolutely rocketing early on. Not surprised to see his short run pace, given he was the winner of that 1-lap dash a few weeks ago, picking up, what was it, 10 grand?
Yes, indeed. Has been very quick as well. Mind you, part of that gigantic conglomerate in Nexus 2 that just so happens to be dominating the top 20 in the Road to Pro standings as well. It's just been that type of a season for that organization to an advantage, which is a branch off of Dead Zone, as well as low-line racing in Road to Pro, and it's carried over into NIS this season for a lot of these battles and for outright pace in general.
How easy was that for Kerner? And just like that, he might have 2 here as he gets down on Mega. Ippolito didn't really have much to answer for there other than, well, he's by me. Now I've got to try and follow him through, which he's not been able to do. Very strong down low is that number 4 car. And Mega, even with his pace up top, isn't able to fend him off as he gets by on the skin of his teeth, sliding up to the top through turn 1. Up at the front, here comes James Mullins, challenging for Carper, down into 3.
Just slowly reeled him on in. Doesn't seem like he's got the amount of grip, though, on the bottom side to complete the pass. This might take a while.
I would imagine, Justin, as the tyres start to wear, it makes it harder to get it done down low because you really have to back up the corner to get it turned. As now he's going to try again, a much better run out of 2. This is going to give him a bit of contact there as they enter the corner. Mullins delayed his turn in, and I don't think Paul Carper was expecting it. Just turned into his door there, and that's all that was needed to switch around the lead of the race.
And that's what we call late arc. Trying to go a little bit later on your arc into the corner, push the driver above you, up a racing groove or so, to force them to mess up the corner on the high side. That's exactly what Mullins did. I think he felt like he was quicker, and now, look at already how much he's pulled away. 2/10 gained in the past lap.
while they were battling too, they dumped a bit of time to Seth Ryder. He pulled in about 0.2 of a second. He's now 0.6 away from 4 Carper, sitting still comfortably in 3rd. As we run on board with Seth the Merchant here, running in 6th place is Seth. He is ranked as the number 1 driver in the session, so if he does have an issue today, it's going to be disastrous when it comes to his iRacing. There's the dangers of official racing, but also the bonus if you're someone such as, say, Pedro Mega, number 20 in the session, and he's running up in 9th place. Big bonus for him if he maintains that over the course of the race.
He's done a solid job holding on, but again, kind of evened out with Taya Polio behind him. Several of the drivers who have high numbers too are still deep in the pack, still trying to either gain positions from starting at the back of the field, or just struggling. Justin Levine, the 8 car in the session, 16th spot. Will Norton, 19th spot. Jesse Atchison, 21st spot. It could take the whole race for some of them to gain up time. And don't forget about Matt Danson, who's minus 21 of the race after being involved in that first lap stack-up with Johnny Baldridge on the bottom of the racetrack out of 4.
Yeah, Danson said a couple times that he wanted to race, didn't end up doing it, and now he's finally done it, and might be regretting his decision because things are not working out for him at the moment. He'll want a caution in the next 20 laps or so. Otherwise, he might come under fire from the leaders, potentially trying to put him a lap down. 4 Carper kissed the fence out of 4 there. Didn't give him much damage, but he's going to want to be careful about that because it's going to start to open the eyes of Ryder and Miller behind, who switch around their positions. That's Miller going through and might offer them an opportunity to go by if he keeps on kissing that fence.
Thing is, though, I think the handling's completely gone. I think that's where the aggression from Mullins came a bit. Losing about a 10th a corner now. Just can't hold the grip at this point. And keep in mind, that did give him left front damage on Forkaba's car. Mullins just off and away in that all-important clean air. A 10th of a second quicker than his teammate Miller, who's in 3rd. 3/10 quicker than the 17 last time by.
Alright, so looking at the pit strategy window here, Justin, for Carper, might be one of the drivers that tries to pull an undercut and pit earlier than the majority of the field, certainly than the guys around him. When's that window open up?
Well, that's going to be the intriguing part, because in theory, a lot of the tracks, based on the mileage we've seen, say, Chicagoland or places like Kansas, normally it'll be 50-50 and then to the end. The problem is here with Kentucky is drivers have been able to stretch it as far as 66, 67 laps long. In theory, you may just barely get a one-stopper if you save enough fuel. The problem is the difficulty of that, and all that can go out the window with just a simple caution flag. So there might be some very different strategies here. And keep in mind, if you can make that one-stop work, you can gain yourself about, in the span of a run, 18 seconds on the track compared to the 2-stoppers.
Of course, you then do suffer on the end of the run when your tyres start to go away, and theirs are still operating at a pretty good range, but certainly definitely a short-term benefit to doing the undercut and the one-stop versus two-stop. You would expect with how short the race is, relatively speaking, the two-stop probably not going to work out unless there's some cautions. So here comes Eddie Kerner, picking up yet another spot. Now he's up into 4th. That's Seth Ryder going behind.
Yeah, Carter's the fastest car on the racetrack, but at this point, Matt, I think it's just waving these cars on by. Nearly snapped it in front of Miller. That car and its right rear tire is gone. Needs to make a massive adjustment, it looks like, in the pits.
Yeah, Kerner's going to go by. Ryder's going to follow him through as well. And for Carper's car is starting to fall off that cliff. It's teetering on the edge and might just be about to topple as he just dropped a ton of time. He ran a 32.6 that lap compared to Kerner running a 32.1. That was half a second he dropped after being caught up on the top star of the racetrack. Plus 19 then for Kerner. As look at the 17, how much slower he is through the corner. De Merchant is not waiting around. He's going to pick up that spot. For Carper loses another. The early race leader going backwards.
And this is a car, mind you, for low line with that driver who was inside the top 3 the entire time just yesterday with the hotter track temp. So whatever they tried to tonight seems or tweak compared to what they expected for tonight just hasn't worked out for them. Completely the opposite of what it's looked like at this point. 98 to go. Already back to 7th spot after having some good short run pace for 20 laps.
Wonder if Four-Kappa might want to think about a 2-stop strategy. If his tyres are going off that quickly, hitting around that 45 and trying to split the race in 3. If that is the case, his window will open in about 8 laps time, as Kerner is now driving up towards the back of Robert Miller. Kerner, pretty much the complete opposite of Four-Kappa. His car just seems to be getting better and better as this run goes on. It's glued to the racetrack, and he is not fighting it at all. And things look very cool, calm, and collected for him right now in the cockpit.
Yeah, that Tweety Bird with the construction helmet on him, he's just gone to work. Plus 21 we've talked about with Kerner. But there's a reason that just this week, by the way, at Dover, Ryan, he sneaked his way inside the top 5 in the Road to Pro standings. He's that quick of a race car driver, and is someone who, when everything goes his direction, can keep the car clean and be very quick, especially the long run. Even though we've seen the short run pace, of course, when a 10K. He's got the potential talent to compete in the Pro Series come the wintertime.
Certainly putting his best foot forward this stage of the year. Everything seems to be going his way. And now, the way that he's going is looking to be to the front. He's 1.5 seconds off your race leader, consistently lapping quicker than James Mullins out there. Getting a good benefit too from a little bit of slipstream off the back of Miller, helping to pull him along. But I dare say once he clears him, he might be going even faster.
Yeah, you can also, in theory, try and draft with one error because, again, you lose a couple tenths with the pass around. So I think if Miller feels like he's holding him up, we'll probably let Kerner on go. Let him drive right on by and try and close up the gap about 1.4 seconds. But you have to remember when it comes to James Mullins, it's been talked about by some of his fellow competitors. He's a very good setup builder with Nexus Esports. But it's not talked about a lot the pace he can run in the race car. He doesn't show it off too many times in top splits such as this. But at a lot of cases, Ryan, he can outperform even the best drivers iRating-wise, and in some cases, the Road to Pro standings, in his entire team. He's one of the best drivers they've got, and most underrated.
Yeah, Miller has had a couple of standout performances so far this season. Hasn't quite got a win yet on a Friday night, but he's been knocking on that door. And today looks like it might be one of his best runs so far, as that was the move for Kerner, getting himself into second. They didn't lose too much time from that. It was over and done almost before it even started. And now he's 1.5 seconds back with clean air between himself and the race leader. Further behind, Seth the Merchant, Patrick Moose. These guys running 5th and 6th. The Merchant has been here all race long. Patrick Moose is slowly working his way up from 14th place where he started.
Again, just the raw pace of the Nexus machines just dragging him on forward. Again, that car is just so good. The interesting thing, though, is, again, it just seems for Seth No, it hasn't worked out for him compared to his fellow teammates, who's up in P7 for comparison's sake, because he's only in the 32.2s, and as talked about, the way he's driven that car, it's been fairly loose on corner exit, especially off 2 with the bobbles you see there. That's even allowing Four-Kappa to reel him right back on in. He was faster a couple times over.
Yeah, down at 1.3 now, so Kerner's carving out the gap. It's lap 45. There's the last car on the lead lap. It is Matt Danson. So this is about the time I said maybe Four-Kappa might want to split the race in 3. His times have equalized, though, and he's not suffering quite as much now that he's running in 8th and has found his rhythm again. He's 4.3 seconds off the lead. For Damson, he has to go as long as he can. Otherwise, if he pits, he's going to go up, down. Maybe even 2.
And talking about the traffic, though, Ryan, with how thick it may be once these leaders get there, especially after pit stops, that's where the potential for a caution flag may come into play, because if you have differences of older tires and much fresher tires, it's nearly 2-3 seconds of fall off already throughout this run. That's where there might be a lot of trouble. That's where a lot of drivers may lose up to a second trying to get around some of the cars, and that could be a spell for disaster. All well, Michael Jeans, his front end, remember, was crushed in from that incident. He's continuing to just go backwards as this race progressed.
Yeah, he's someone else that's going to need to get some adjustments before the race is done down to the first pit stop. Remember at the start of the race, Justin, I highlighted how good the racing's been this season and not to put your money on an early caution. Well, here we are on lap 47.
Pit stop.
We
Pedro
haven't
Mega.
got it. And Pedro
What?
Mega. There you go. Now, this is in that 2-stop window, isn't it?
Yes, a little bit a couple laps earlier, but this may be a call to try and undercut those who are going for the 2-stop. Get a bit risky depending on the pit deltas overall, because this pit road speed limit will be 45 miles an hour. But you can gain a lot of time, Ryan, by how strong you take the entry. If you have the confidence to send it in and just make it to the speed limit, you can gain up to 2 seconds.
Well, Boyd Hogan has come down straight away after that. And these 2 pit stops, does that cause a chain reaction where everyone now ends up pitting a little bit earlier than they anticipated? Often the case, because if you're not going for a completely different strategy, you don't want to get caught in the middle where they have a good undercut on you, but you're not pitting late enough to come back later on in the stint. You either react quickly or you just do the opposite.
That's the interesting thing, because again, some of the Nexus machines were clutching, coasting on a lot of the corner entries. In the early part of the run, I think in part attempts, in part to make sure they got to that exact fuel number. But I think if, say, Seth Ryder comes in, or DeMarchin, or one of their teammates comes in, that might trigger a few of them to try and follow on through and try the 2-stop, while others may go with the split. Will Norton just caught on the radio, one of the Nexus cars sliding his way to the pit lane now in the 2.
And he was up about 23 positions before this pit stop, so he's had a fantastic early stint. He might be making to make no changes down on pit road as Pedro Mega goes by on the racetrack. Ocean Walsh, Jonathan Hernandez, all down on pits as well. In fact, a whole host of cars coming in this time.
And that's around 9 drivers already ducking down, at least a couple more looking to come on down. I think those are the drivers who may not be confident they can do the 1-stop, especially with some of their gearing. That may be a bit of an effect as well with the fuel mileage. Here comes a few more. Look at that. Some drivers gained a ton of time to close back up here.
Justin Levine, see them, they slide it into their box. The brakes don't work very well on these cars, and you've got to be extremely careful cutting down to the pit road speed, not to lock it up and skate across the line over the speed limit. It'll copy you a massive penalty, but also coming into your pit box, so easy to jam on those brakes, just slide straight past your lollipop man, and that in itself is a whole host of time.
It can be pretty dark at that part of the racetrack too, here at Kentucky for your pit entry. Something also to think about where the pit exit cone is. That green cone, it's way deeper than most people expect. It's so easy to gas it up about 10 feet too early, get a speeding penalty right there. No one has been booked quite yet for speeding, but that might pop up for at least 1 or 2 drivers tonight, Ryan.
If we get a caution with some pit stops, it might negate some of the advantage the number 1 pit stall has as well, which will be for Carper, because he'll have to get right up to speed before he gets to that exit cone. So most of our leaders stay out. Our top 10 relatively the same. Mullins, Kerner, Miller, Reiter, Moose, Merchant, Knoll, Four-Carper, Atchison, and Sealer. They both picked up a couple of spots due to pit stops. And now's that awkward time when you don't really know where anyone is, because there is drivers a lap down, there's drivers back on the lead lap, and there's drivers still a lap down who aren't on fresh tires.
And this is where a lot of the caution flags this week, Ryan, have come. The differences in tire cycles and drivers on the older tires not realizing drivers are coming 20, 30 miles an hour correctly on the back bumpers. That's where there's the chance of a caution flag, and you have to be really careful, especially with the lead cars. With all of these drivers on fresher tires zipping on by in the 30 flats, but they're still in the 32 fours.
Eddie Kernan's lost second position here. Robert Miller's gone by him. And both of them have fallen away from James Mullins. So the late run pace doesn't seem to be there for Kerner.
Yeah, actually let him on by in the entrance to turn 1 and 2. And I think he might be concerned about fuel, because the past time by in 1 and 2 really clutched and coasted. I think he's feeling like if he can draft off Miller and hold in the clutch, he can make it. See right there? Pushed way up the racetrack, gave the whole bottom side to his teammate and Miller, let him on go. Then listen in for the engine, because around these next few corners, he started clutching, coasting hard.
Trying to stretch the car to one stop then. Maybe a little bit concerned about making it the distance and just trying to give himself a little bit of a safety net here. About 58 of 134. There's Pedro Mega picking up positions on the track like the others are standing still. So he goes around the outside and rockets away from, I believe that was Seth Knoll and co. It was Knoll and Four-Carper. So Mega's not far away from getting himself back on the lead lap. Zach Hudson down on pit road as well. Now the issue for Mega now is he's been out there so long. If the caution comes out, everyone's coming to pit road on the lead lap. But then, yes, he can get the wave around to get back on the lead lap, but his tyres are going to be drastically worse off.
Yeah, that's the thing. He needs to get up to where James Mullins is to have a shot of contending still in this race. Mind you, too, if he doesn't take the wave, would still be down an extra set. As the shot continues, apparently, from some of the fellow drivers with Seth DeMerchant in his Ford.
Yeah, DeMerchant here, just in behind, I believe that's one of the laps down cars on the fresh tyres. In fact, it is. That is Boyd Hogan going by him.
Now keep in mind, we can, with one of the recent build updates about a month or so ago that opened up the radio channels for the driver's chat to any spectator listening in an official or hosted or league race. And some drivers have actually been asking, when did he switch to a Ford to Seth DeMerchant throughout this race? Because again, he's known for the shove. He says Pedro making things really difficult.
Oh, that's tight. That's not pretty. There was 3 different levels of pace in that group. The lead lap cars, the cars on fresh tyres, and the lap down car with damage on old tyres. And they all came together in a very awkward spot. Boyd Hogan is going to breeze by them all. Mega is going to regather his composure and now start to go forward again, but there was a bit of contact in that, and Eddie Kerner had a mirror full of absolute chaos for a second.
Yeah, that is where you're trying to hold on to your composure. With how ridiculous that got, with how tight it was, that could have been the big one right there. With so many drivers on different tire cycles, already Kerner saying go low for the drivers on fresher tires zipping by on the bottom side.
Will Norton making his way up the order as well. Remember, he started this one from 34th, was up as high as about 11th, and came to pit road as part of the early pit stop drivers. Tell you who's about to go a lap down, Matt Danson. James Mullins is about to go by him. Danson is staying out, as expected, but this race, after that early issue, doesn't look like he's carrying much damage, but he doesn't have the pace of the leader, and he was handed a massive deficit of about 20 seconds early on.
Oh, and look at this. The low-line racing machine, this is a little bit earlier than the fuel number projected. Might be tight to get to the end, but this is an undercut if they do get a yellow flag with all the craziness coming up here.
Yeah, about 4 laps shy of halfway. So he is going to be pushing it to try and make it home from here. As, oh, that's Hogan underneath the rear bumper of Danson. Had to just check up a little bit through 1 and 2 and bide his time. And Hogan is going to be the first driver of these early pit stops to get himself back on the lead lap. And just like that, Mullins is gone and into pit lane, followed by Danson as well.
Had to make it 69 laps to get to the finish. Again, very tight. Same for the Merchant. I still think they need to stretch another 2 laps to safely get themselves around that one-stop window. Robert Miller just over the radio just in case he's pitting. He's not in the window yet.
Well, it is halfway at lap 69, but can these cars do 72 laps regardless?
I don't think 72 is realistic. It's a couple laps short, give or take. Around here, if you do a lot of clutch and coasting, maybe you can make it.
So these drivers now relying on a caution to come out at some stage to allow them to save those extra couple of laps under that yellow flag condition. Now, where does Mullins rejoin? This is the key. So those drivers have been out there on fresh tyres for over 15 laps now, and they should have found a massive undercut as a result. Eddie Kerner comes to pit road as well.
Oh,
and
caution!
The cautions come out. Who for?
Oh, that is absolutely huge.
Now, there's a lot of drivers on pit road at the moment. And a lot to dissect out of where everyone's running right now. This is going to take a little bit to shake out. Now, Justin, did you see who the caution was for? Because I can't find it. Neither can our director, in fact.
Yeah, this is a weird one. Because, again, this came up right in the middle of the cycle. This is, mind you, a difficult pit exit, mind you, to get out here. That may have been part of the factor as well. And I think there was a car that blew up and stopped on the apron or something technical for Michael Jeans. He slammed on the brakes and stopped it on the apron.
Technical issue for him then. Here's the motor simulation replay. There he is, grinding to a halt. That looks like 1 and 2.
Something definitely happened here because
Black screen, potentially.
Apparently his wheel disconnected, which in some wheels, if that happens, you lose all your steering. Right there, wheel disconnects, brakes lock up, he has no idea where he is, tries to stop. Problem is, he's on the pavement, that's the trigger, and this just flipped the race upside down.
Yes, the wheel locked left, you had to jam on the brakes to slow it down enough that it would actually turn back down to the apron. So big shame for Jeans, and I guess that's the mechanical failures that you get in sim racing as opposed to real racing. It's technical issues like that that recreate those scenarios. So, now this is awkward. So Guy Sealer's leading the race. He's down on pit road. Boyd Hogan is coming back to pit road after his early pit stop. Eddie Kerner, Ippolito, Moose, they're up in the top 3. Don't believe they've pitted under this caution, have they?
Yeah, remember, a lot of the drivers trying to stretch the run stopper, Ryan, just came out of the pit road or were in the pits, so they have all good reason to stay out here. The drivers, though, who really benefit, I think, the most are the drivers who tried the 2-stop and gained a ton of track position with the time of the caution. Hogan, he was in around P13, P14. He's now up to 3rd after pit stops. Norden, he's split from his teammates. He's up inside the top 5 after being in the top 15 as well. This whole race just got flipped upside down for a lot of these drivers to get their track position that they've been wanting big time.
Mid-pit stop cycle cautions are the worst. As a driver, and as a commentator, Justin, because you've got so many different strategies that suddenly aren't going to play out, and they all converge in a very awkward spot. And right now, we've ended up with, I think, 29 cars on the lead lap.
And this is including several waiver rounds, at least 10 projected.
Yeah, there's, 18 cars behind the leader, but 19th on back or in front of the race leader. Eduardo Oliveira is the first car behind the pace car right now. So Ippolito, he was running up inside that top 10. Didn't look like he had the race-winning or race-leading pace, but through this cycle, he has emerged as the race leader. The key, though, is where's Miller? Mullins, sorry. Mullins has dropped all the way back to 21st. He's going to have to take a wave around here.
And this is only on 3-lap-old tires. He might be okay. Miller's on 2-lap-old. But it's, again, Eduardo, who is on 18-lap-old tires. William Archoff, who couldn't get his lead lap back. 22 laps now on the tires. Hickson, approaching 19 on the tires. Hudson, approaching 12 laps, who are essentially in a bit of a box. The interesting thing, though, is Ippolito hasn't come down to pit yet. And he's on 19-lap-old tires as well. I believe pit lane's still open until at least one, maybe more time. I'm shocked he still stayed out here. Maybe he's thinking if they can come to 2 to go and then top off there with the tires, then he might be able to make it without saving.
I think at this point you can make it, can't you? You've gone past
in
halfway.
theory, yes.
Yeah,
with the caution
easy.
flag, you can without saving usually easily, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
That's a cool shot. So, Ippolito, if he restarts this one on 70-lap-old tires, could become the proverbial cork in the bottle. And it might trigger a big melee behind him. Boyd Hogan, Eddie Kerner, he got extremely lucky. He was on pit road as that caution came out. Now, I imagine he's driven straight through the lane to escape getting trapped. And he's going to end up restarting somewhere up inside the top 10-ish. 14th, it looks like, actually. Still not bad, considering.
We actually took service, checking on our end of things, yes. Did actually get into the pit stall as that caution came out. So did Patrick Moose and a few of the others. So they were able to get the service. It's the ones who had to drive through and were just starting to come down the pit lane who really lose a lot of that valuable time and track position, which may take a lot of this race to get back. It could be crazy because everyone can make it on one tank of fuel now. It's just a matter of who uses their tire sets at specific points of this run. Because remember, tire sets were implemented at Pocono. That made a lot of interesting calls for NIS at Pocono. The Brickyard wasn't too much of a factor with the full distance race. Several drivers had a couple sets to spare. But some of these other drivers are now in a box where they have still about 2, maybe 1 set of tires remaining the rest of the way.
A few cars pitted on this lap. Justin Levine, Jonathan Hernandez, as everyone gets their wave around. And Ippolito still out on the racetrack, so this could be a wild restart here. It will be anyway, because we've got some of our fastest drivers towards the back, and these guys look like they're going a bit slow for this wave around. Looks like
I don't think they're trying to...
Burn up the tires,
I don't think they're trying... Yeah, the tires. That's why I think they aren't pushing it so hard. You're only going like 130, make sure you don't overcook them, but... The call I think Ippolito's making here at the front of the field is he's got an extra set of tires than everybody else now. If they get a caution after, say, 5-10 laps, guess what? He's got the freshest tires in the field. If no one else comes in, he's likely the fastest car on the racetrack. So it's a massive high-risk, high-reward scenario. The risk? Him being the caution if they get one. The reward? If he isn't it, he gets the freshest tires on the track.
Yeah, so he's on 20-lap-old tires here. Pitted on lap 52. He's going to be really careful applying the power. And away we go. First restart of the day, the night here in Kentucky. And And this field has been through the blender and back out the other side. This is a really mixed up order.
And this will really test some of the pace of some of these cars as Ippolito way all over the racetrack. Here comes the Hornet's Nest.
Moose was struggling too as he drove around the outside of him. Will Norton goes by. Now Ippolito's stuck in the middle. And they're almost 4 abreast behind him. Boyd Hogan, Pedro Mega, Cosmin, Olanesio. Where's he come from? Looks like Cosmin's going to emerge. And then Guy Steeler up top. Hogan, Mega now struggling. Miguel Bento tucked up behind him.
Oh, this isn't looking pretty. Some of these drivers actually nearly hitting their doors trying to get around some of this traffic. I think they're holding each other so much that they aren't even reaching the back of Ippolito's car here.
And now Hogan gets sent back to the middle. Yeah, Ippolito still running 4th behind Cosmin. Your top 2 have broken away. Second margin between Norton in 2nd and Cosmin there in 3rd. And they're 3 wide again off the corner. Eddie Kerner in the middle. Larry Mullikin to his inside. Oh, that's tight. Hogan's slow and Kerner has to check up. That sets off that rear end like a mine going off. He manages to wrestle it back under control. But Hogan's struggling, but he was on pit road under the caution. So that's surprising.
A little bit. That
At
car
least-
was struggling a little bit. Remember in the first run. It
least
just seems like...
I think he was on pit road, Justin.
Remember, he did, yeah. The thing is, I think whatever adjustment they may have made may not be settling as well as I think they were hoping. Him and his spotter, Dustin Johnson.
Yeah. It looks like it's driving how I expected Ippolito's car to be driving right now. It is all over the place. It's horrible underneath. He's going to lose another spot. And they are 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 behind him. This could get ugly. Jonathan Hernandez, Joshua Campbell, John Brassard, and Ocean Walsh all looking to find a way by. As now Hogan loses 1, 2, 3 spots in the space of the corner. And that really checked up Joshua Campbell. Now he drops a ton.
And Campbell, I think, just trying to find the next hole, but it's getting really wild still up in front. 2, 3 wide still. Scott Crump nearly hit the back end of Ty Ippolito. And mind you, Crump is P30 on the racetrack.
He's a lap down. He's trying to get it back. He's caught in a very awkward spot right now. As your top 3 have all broken away from the chaos behind. Mega sitting in 4th. There's Scott Crump. And there's the gap at the top. Moose and Norton have emerged in the clean air, and Cosmin Ionesio is going with them.
Mind you, Cosmin, not talked about too much, is a part of Nexus Esports. Also, part of Big Chungus Racing, apparently, as well. Designs a lot of various graphics and, well, different mods and various different predecessors to iRacing. So a very noteworthy figure having a strong run tonight. Still, though, everyone's getting held up by the AOD Racing Machine, who is still on that massive gamble with an extra set of tires.
Going to lose another spot as Walsh goes by him, and Ippolito immediately tucks in behind him down to the low side of the racetrack. Next up is Miller and Levine. Robert Miller is carving his way through the field, and Mullins is coming with him, in fact. So they both get to Ippolito, and these two are some of the fastest in the field before the caution came out. They were the race leaders at the time. 3 wide out of the corner. That's Miller down low, and he clears him.
That time Seth Ryder just got poked a little bit to the bottom side. Remember, Ryder was very good in the first 30 laps in that Elias Sauter Esports machine. Wanted to try and follow the choo-choo train with Mullins being the conductor of that run. Still, though, that caution flag, again, is played right into the hands of Moose and Norton, who are still in the teens. And for the caution flag, they're now two of the quicker cars on the racetrack. While the quickest times you talked about are still in the mix of all this chaos and losing more and more time and wearing out their tires and having dirty air trying to pass one another.
Yeah, so Mullins now is 7 seconds off the lead of the race. He's going to need another caution if he wants to get there because his tires are going to be a little bit overworked having to get through the field, and it's going to be extremely difficult to then just run down the extra 7 seconds he needs to get to the race leaders. So he's banking on another caution in the not too distant future after he picks up a few more spots. Miller, Ryder, all in the same boat, I'd say.
Absolutely. If we do get an R1, it could be absolutely crazy on the restart. But again, as we talked about, this isn't a track where you normally see cautions unless aggression starts to boil over or somebody makes a mistake, say clip the apron, causes a checkup, not enough time to react. We haven't seen too much of that tonight except on a restart or two and except on the first lap. It's been a very clean race for the most part, with the only caution, remember, still being just that technical issue for Jeans.
On board with Levine. That's Mullins in front of him, that big purple 10 machine. And on the inside of Levine is Seth Ryder. Ryan Carwile behind them as well. Haven't mentioned him all race, but he's racing with some of the fastest cars on the racetrack. So he's got some pace in that 34 machine. On board with him. Using the middle line through 1 and 2. That slow car up in front, that is Johnny Balderidge. He's a lap down.
2 laps down, in fact, and has just been a terrible night for Baldridge with damage all over the race car. Not been a pretty night ever since that first lap with that snap loose. Keep in mind, some of the F5 Motorsports machines in practice before tonight's NIS were having that issue in 1 and 2. He's now feeling the cost of it as Josh, will give him credit, is still holding on to a top 10 position after being in 18th spot before the caution, oh boy.
Up the racetrack goes Adam Jocelyn. Lucky for him, it's a wide old racetrack here in Kentucky, and he's able to keep it off the Armco.
Think he did hit Seth No, though No now has some left side damage on the rear end.
Hey, I got my acronyms mixed up. It's a safe barrier, not the Armco. Man, Armco barriers on a NASCAR truck, that'll be dangerous. Keeps it off the safer barrier then. And he will continue on, but albeit maybe a little bit damage to his left side.
Yeah, for Seth it is a bit on the back bumper, but for Jocelyn, no front, no bumper damage on that machine. Could be much worse for those two drivers, to say the very least, with the massive amount of checkup. I don't know if it's going to affect that Nexus machine, though, too much, based on what we've seen. It's just, again, the driver comfortability with the racetrack to try and make sure it doesn't bobble like it's been much of the corners, which has been losing a lot of the time after 25 laps.
Jocelyn down low and Brassard up top. They almost came together. Brassard's car looks a little loose and he almost drifted straight down into Jocelyn as there's a car with technical issues just behind him on the racetrack as well. Scott Crump is on the low side. A big wiggle as he enters the corner behind Jocelyn. None of these guys look very comfortable, to be honest.
Yeah, they have been all over the racetrack, and it doesn't help, too. When you ever have a car with that situation we just referred to, it can be dangerous because you never know where exactly they're going to be. You never know if you're going to have a ring around that race car that affects how close you can get to them. It can be absolutely dangerous. One car in the wall, Bridgman. And now Bridgman going down the pit lane after smacking his car hard with the right front.
Modem simulation replay then. Has he done this by himself? He's just in behind the number 18. And the rear end steps away from him, overcorrects and smack. into the safe barrier. Big damage to the right side of that car. Down to pit road every day of the week with that one. Your race leaders, by the way, have been inseparable, but either Norton just doesn't have the extra 10th up his sleeve, or he's biding his time.
Yeah, Guy's done a really good job of holding on to the top 10 here with the pace. Oh, a bit of contact in that grouping behind them. Jocelyn nearly got moved.
Oh, they're 3 wide again. Jocelyn in the middle. Looks like Oshie and Walsh down low and moving slow up on the top side of the racetrack. Number 23, that's John Brassard. And Mullins now joins the fray. He's going to want to get by these guys before they all come together again. Oh, that's tight. Oh, he drifted right up and almost into the left rear of Brassard.
What a cut by Brassard to be able to thread the needle right by Mullins to get that pass done. And Mullins might be getting a little bit frustrated because, again, we knew how quick he was in the clean air. He's only lost about a second since the last time we checked from the interval to the leaders. 8 seconds back, but it's still 8 seconds back in the midst of traffic here.
Jocelyn slides again on the entry to 3. It was very similar to what Bridgman had going on, except Jocelyn was just able to gather it up. There's almost contact there. You know those scenarios where you can sense a caution coming, Justin? Yeah, this is one of them.
Yeah, this is where you might want to get a little bit further back. Let's put it that way to make sure you're not in the trouble if it continues the fireworks. By the way, some position changes here, Ron. Will Norton now up to the race lead. P4 just swapping spots now too. Here comes Kerner.
Maybe he was biding his time. He took that one away. He's now starting to try and gap him as Kerner gets by Pedro Omega. That's Cosmin still running in 3rd, pretty comfortable. As behind, they continue to scrap. And that's Seth Knoll with Guy Sealer all over his rear bumper.
Seth's starting to show a little bit of that trouble we've seen on corner exit in the last run. Just again, a little bit dicey on corner exit, but I think is faster than Mulligan. Has better raw pace than the Genix machine, and I think Mulligan knows it. Gives him a lot of space to make that pass.
Looks like this big group has sort of settled down for now. Although they are starting to condense once again in behind Seth Knoll. Larry Mulligan and Guy Sealer are side by side. Hernandez is deciding which lane he wants, and he says, I'll take the inside. And Mulligan will lose 2 up top. There's no grip up there anymore as this run continues, and Mullins on the inside of, is that Miller?
Well, that's Miguel. One of the LaRue cars.
And Miguel's a lap down as well. But he's carrying some good momentum and pace.
And I think part of that is Scott Crump is the next car behind him for position. That is the battle for the lucky dog at the moment. So I think Miguel just wants to keep as many cars between them as possible with some of these various spots. I want to quickly touch upon the interesting point with Hernandez. We've seen that machine with Underground Racing logos on it, part of the development program. Now, Jonathan Hernandez specifically, who's in P8, who is a few positions up here, part of the development program that Bobby Dillon Legacy Esports has. I'm surprised that the pace has been good for Hernandez, but the adjustments, whatever Boyd did in his car, he's back in 22nd.
Yeah, well, remember, we saw that car struggling. It was almost like he had a completely different track set of conditions to everyone around him, and he was sliding all over the joint. And he's not recovered at all. He's now 18 seconds away from the lead of the race, and he'll need to make wholesale changes to the car if we have another trip to pit road. 34 laps to go under the lights here in Kentucky. And Norton's got a 0.3 of a second gap over Patrick Moose. 1.8 back to Cosmin, 2.2 to Kerner, 3.3 to Mega, Then the field starts to get pretty tight from Seth Knoll, Guy Sealer on back.
This is again where the long run pace is going to play a key role. Who finishes inside this top 10? This is track position. Here's the problem though, if you're part of the Nexus group and use 1, 2, 3, 4, Carter's the fastest amongst them. Last time by, 3/10 quicker than Cosman. There's the space right there. 2/10 quicker than the leader.
Yep, no fight at all given from Cosman there. Lets him go, and Kerner will streak ahead in that brightly coloured number 4 machine. See what sort of times he can do now that he's got a bunch of clean air once again. On that lap, continuing to lap, about 1/10 quicker than both Norton and Moose up the road. Definitely time to get there if we stay green. Obviously, he'll get there if there's a caution. Win-win scenario for him right now, no matter how this run plays out.
This would be the chance to go 2 for 3 on the week in the NAS Open competition, but it's interesting how the differences some of their cars have been running. Norton's been pushing tight on corner exit. Moose has been able to arc it a bit better on exit. Mullins, he's had a lot of dirty air and has had a hard time cutting through the traffic, as in fact, only gained 3/10 since getting some clean space. And Kerner's just able to carry a lot of momentum while still having a bit of the push tight Norton's been having. So it's just across the spectrum for the Nexus teammates throughout the field tonight.
We're on board with Mullins here. Is only now about to crack the top 10 as he goes by Hernandez. Still about 8 seconds away from the leaders, so he's not losing time to them anymore as he navigates his way by the much more tame traffic further up towards the front of the field. Miller is 2 spots up the racetrack, up there in 8th. He's only 7 seconds off. These two, both the biggest losers, I'd say, from that caution period.
Yeah, they were set. They were looking like they were in a decent situation to make it to the end if they clutched and coasted towards the end. And would have had enough of an undercut, I think, to pull the gap. Now, they need that caution to have a chance to battle with the rest of their fellow teammates. Hour-wise, this is Kerner's race to lose because he's now got it to under a second nearly for the race lead, 8/10 to the car in front.
That car is absolutely flying. It is a rocket ship right now. Started this race back in 24th position. Came through the field very quickly early on. Had his progress hampered by the caution when it came out. He's had to come through the field once again, but he's done it. And he's got all the way up to the race leaders. And the gap is 9/10. You see there 2 different lanes being run by Norton and Moose. Moose looking for the clean air. Caution's out on the racetrack. Larry Mulliken. Hard contact into the safety barrier.
And I think he got a bit of help here already. Mullins jumping on the radio to apologize. I think Mullins was trying to side draft Ryan and just accidentally hooked him into the corner.
Here we go. Here's the replay. So Mullins behind. And where does he go? So Mulliken leaves a bit of room at the bottom. Mullins, does he go to fill that hole? Yes, he does. Down the back straight away. Moves up to side draft. And there's the contact. Mulliken spins it. And everyone else avoids him. In the end, it's not massive contact with the barrier, but that left side's definitely taken a tweak.
You know, on that glance of that first shot, I think Mulliken actually just drifted a bit down from the wall. Might have been not completely straight. And I've seen several drivers easily do that with how their setups can be. There are some drivers who have been bouncing a little bit down the straight, weaving about 1/10 of a car length away from the wall. I think that bit of a drift, as well as set up for turn 3, bit of a factor, as well as Mullins not expecting it while he was trying to side draft for the pass.
So the reset button gets hit. All the strategies, a different tire wear. Everyone is now on pit road. Everyone is going to have those same tires on their car. As the race off pit road will be won by, looks like Will Norton, maybe Eddie Kerner. They're side by side. Keep an eye on this camera shot. This will be tight. Kerner just lifted off there. He let Norton get ahead. Interesting.
Oh, and Kerner has a penalty. That's huge.
Oh, that's why.
Another speeding penalty for Kerner in an NAS race.
That's his race done. There's no way he gets back up the order from the back with 26 to go. It's a huge mistake from Eddie Kerner.
Yeah, and it's so easy, as we talked about, to accidentally speed and get up to the gas. We talked about it, 45 miles an hour, the speed limit. I think when he got out of the pit box, went as high as 47 at some of the timing segments just before they got towards the cone. That just cost Kerner the race.
There is leeway. You can go above the speed limit, Justin, obviously, but you've got to get it back down quickly enough.
Yeah, it's been essentially an average as well as the timing segments. The problem is, with the white lines that separate those segments, he was at 47, Ryan. And that's going to book you for speeding regardless of where you are on the pit lane a lot of times. Good news is, though, this put Mullins and company back in contention, Ryan.
It does, and they all restart up beside the top 10. Our second caution comes with 25 laps to go. And we are going to have an almighty finish to this race. Norton, Moose, Knoll, Cosman and Millie are top 5. Mullins there at 7th. Eddie Kerner's going to be charging from the back. I doubt he can get there, though. And on the lead lap, it looks like we have 31 cars.
Yeah, and that includes a couple drivers having to roll the dice and take a wave around, because this is a gamble where if they get the caution, they can get themselves back on even footing and gain more positions than it would be trying to hope for the lucky dog. That's why we see Crump, Love, Campbell, Armshoff, and Danson. We're looking to get that wave. Well, and don't forget about Baldridge, who had that damage we talked about from that crash in turn 3.
Yeah. So if you're Norton or Moose, Knoll, you know those fast guys are now right on your back bumper for this restart. You've got to sort yourselves out early. You can't afford to start battling going side by side or even 3 wide, because Miller and Mullins will just suck right up to your back bumper in an instant.
Yeah, this becomes a battle of which teammate is the best teammate, to put it lightly, because 6 of the top 7 are Nexus. And then you have the split of Garcia, Seth Ryder and Pedro Miga with their different teams, and Hernandez as well. This can be a bit of a benefit for the start. It's just the matter of, I don't think we're going to see as many give or take scenarios up at the front from the teammates if they feel like they're holding one another up. They are going to fight. And as we've seen sometimes, they are willing to battle when it comes to the race victory. When it comes to the midway portion, that's where they give a lot. They have a lot of leeway with holding up fellows' cars, who are much faster. This might get interesting to see which car is able to hold on here.
A lot of time to think for these drivers under the caution. And looks like we'll have 5 waiver rounds. Crump, Love, Cam.
Armshoff and Danson on that grouping. Baldridge also in that grouping. Michael Jean's also in that grouping to get to 1 lap down. No, Baldridge is not in part of that grouping. Apologies there, but either way, decent amount of waiver rounds here. It's going to be intriguing here.
Certainly will. So 1 lap to go, lights out in the pace car. We'll go back green next time by. And, well, this is going to be a grandstand finish. Under the lights. Love that shot from bird's eye view. Jay, our director, occasionally doing some pretty good things behind the scenes.
My thought process, though, is, Ryan, where's everyone's cars in the parking lot? How'd they get here if they didn't drive?
You know, I've heard in iRacing land that the fans actually teleport between races. No cars necessary. iRacing exists in a much more advanced dimension of society.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Just every single tunnel exit is a teleporter.
Exactly right. And I'm assuming Norton's wishing he had a teleporter right now to give himself a much bigger margin over the field, because he has got a hungry pack behind him. And he is in control of the field. Let's go back green. Here in Kentucky, the NASCAR iRacing Series, it's round 20. And we are back under green flag conditions. Green flag in the air.
How well a lot of those Nexus machines launched off, I think some of them did have a count. Don't know if Mullins had that same luxury, though, and that's allowed Sela to be ditched on the top side, and everybody else who followed on behind them is now the benefactor.
Seth Ryder down at the bottom has got his hands full. They're 3 wide behind him as Mega swings up and down the racetrack. And look like Sela got a bit of the fence coming out of turn 4 there. And that's going to allow a bunch of cars by him. Carlisle for Carper and Broussard go by. And now squeezing through a Levine and Atchison as Mega gets loose. Broussard breaks loose as well. They both hold onto it.
That could have been absolutely huge, with several drivers getting that arrow loose. Could have been the big one there right now. Have to be very careful if you're in this group. And again, the top line, the best line, to try and get the passes done in 3 and 4. But you want to get on the bottom by the time you get to 1 and 2 with these track conditions.
Yeah, it's a migration to the bottom side of the racetrack as soon as you've got clean air to your inside, as that was Sela, I think, struggling through turn 2. Look at this. There are no gaps at the front. Seth Knoll to the race lead. And Norton has got a bunch of guys trying to get by him. Caution's out again.
Oh, and this one's a big one. Several cars into the wall in the grass.
Jake Hickson down there on the grass. Michael Jeans, was he involved in this one? After his wheel disconnected to bring out the first caution period.
And I believe Guy might be part of the trigger here and pushed up the track. But Walsh also pushed up even more so, I think, off turn 4 and fed him the right rear. Shoved him into the fence, and everyone just piled up from there, it looked like.
Oh yeah, right there. Hickson left with nowhere to go. Someone got some serious airtime. Oh mate, in front of Oliveira got some decent air. That was Miguel Bento. As he spun down to the grass. Check this out.
Yeah, and just the angle of how hard he hit that grass. There is a little bit of a lip there, where if you hit it, it sends you up into the air, and you can get suspension damage depending on how hard you hit on the ground, as well as how hard you hit the splitter.
Certainly that splitter will have seen better days for him. Now, do we see anyone back down to pit road? How many tires are left on these cars? Left in pit road for these cars? No one comes down.
Might be a little bit early if they get a late race restart. That leaves them a sitting
Eddie
duck.
Kerner? Eddie Kerner
Yes.
comes.
No.
No, he faked.
He faked him.
He sold us all, the dummy.
That might be some of the last sets for some of these drivers. If my math is right,
Yeah,
if not
should be
second to
one
last.
last for everyone. Looks like Michael G is going to get the lucky dog, so not involved in that incident. He gets back on the lead lap. Nope, still a lap down. Nope, no, he's a lap down. God damn it, Jay. So, back on the lead lap for Michael Jeans. That's a good recovery from him after that early, let's call it a mechanical failure for his car.
Yeah, now, if this race goes green to the end, this just played right in the hands of everybody who just pit. I'm going to say that right now. This might play into Boyd Hogan and company's hands as well. it puts everyone else so in that situation where if they say get caution precautions after that run and we get under 10 to go, they might look like geniuses here. Surprised though Kerner didn't follow them down. I think he's thinking big picture and wanting that extra set just in case they pile up on that ladder strategy.
So, Kerner's up at his 16th place. If we keep getting cautions, he might get himself back in the picture here. Because there's 32 cars on the lead lap. And you never know what may happen. So Kerner, maybe not quite out of it, as predicted. Although, those technical issues may have a bit of a story to tell.
And you know something, looking at the amount of pit stops, the leaders, some of them are out of tires. Noah's out of tires. Norton's out of tires. Cosman's out of tires. There's a chance that Hernandez may be also in that grouping. Carwile may be out of tires with 3 stops. Pedro may be out of tires. A decent portion of the field may just have ran out of tires with the stops and how they've waved around, as well as, remember, some of them who had to come down for the 2-stop strategy before the caution. This is about to get even crazier.
So we're going to have 15 to go on this restart. So if we make it another 5 or so laps, then you might expect drivers to come to get their tyres if we get another caution. And then we're going to see a very interesting split, I dare say, between drivers staying out and coming in. But if we go green, it's going to be an all-out warfare between our top 10 or so drivers. Miller from 5th and Mullins from 8th. I think Miller is in with a good chance here. Seth Knoll's been very fast in some clean air as well. And he's going to restart as a race leader, having taken it away from Norton just before that caution came out.
Mind you, that was with a great run down the front straightaway to be able to draft off his teammate, get to the bottom of the apron, handle the huge bump that's at the start and finish line, and still maneuver his way up to the race lead. Now
Still
the tricky part
lights on the pace car.
Yeah, the pace laps, mind you, Ryan, are fairly long, about 4 or 5 pace laps on average. So that's why there's the length here. Should be about 13 to go when we get the green flag, though.
Feels like the laps they took away from the pace laps at the big tracks like Daytona and Talladega, they added on to tracks here in Kentucky and other mile and a half, because this is almost as long as the new Daytona cautions.
A couple people have actually mentioned that they actually prefer this with the longer pace laps because it allows them to concentrate and plan everything out. As well as have a little bit fun. Say, for example, drivers able to vocalize that they're hungry or thirsty after racing for the past hour plus. Others, they might be thinking, what lane am I going to take, or how am I going to make a specific pass to get to the front of the field and win this race? It's about to get chaotic. Absolutely chaotic.
Please don't mention food. I'm overdue for my breakfast. Or lunch at this point. It's 12:30 in the afternoon. I think I'm overdue for breakfast by a long way. Hey, lights are out. 1 to go. Here in Kentucky, we're going to get this one back under green flag conditions in about a minute's time. The caution up to 1 minute and 36 seconds, according to Seth Knowles' last lap time.
This is going to get really intriguing. There's apparently a couple checkups too at the back of the field. Some drivers are off on the apron back here. I think someone just got hit back here.
Yeah, driver's chat might suggest the same as well. As soon as one... It's like a highway, Justin. As soon as the one car hits the brakes, the car behind us hit the brakes harder, and so forth and so forth. Eventually, someone's going to hit.
Yeah, Mulligan had to check up for the car in front who hadn't switched lines yet. Jocelyn ran to the back of him, I believe, and Crump just ran to the back of him. So those cars now with even more damage for this restart.
Bad news for them. Good news for the guys at the front. One less challenger. So, looking for our third restart. Will this one take us through to the finish? Looking for that green flag. Seth Knoll has us in his hands. He pins it. And the field goes with him. Green flag is out once again. And this is congestion down into turn 1.
That was definitely a count for the Nexus drivers to get that big cushion, but already that cushion's gone. It's a Merchant with a good run to the bottom side.
Patrick Moose to the inside of Seth Knoll for the race lead through 3 and 4. Knoll gonna pinch him down to the yellow line on the inside. They're 3 wide in the background. That's Kerner in the middle. Moose gonna lead the first lap back under green.
Oh, and this is about to get ugly. They're 3 wide just behind him, and Carter's up to the top 10 already.
He was in the middle, now he's down low. Kerner's flying. Top 10. And he's on the inside of Hernandez now. Moose able to fully clear Seth Knoll, who gets a monumental run through 3 and 4. Back to his inside. Back to the lead of the race. Here comes Seth Knoll. And as they scrap, here comes Norton, DeMerchant, and Miller.
Now it's the chance for Seth to just take a deep breath, try and play the lines, not allow anyone to get a run, and force everyone side by side. That's got to be the goal if he wants to win this race, and hope it stays green and his handling doesn't fall off a cliff like it's had much of this race.
It's a mad dash to the front for all of these drivers right now. There was almost contact deeper in the field. And in fact, there is. 2 cars spin down into turns 1 and 2. And that collects about half a dozen.
Oh, and that's a really rough one for Furkapa after his good run in the early parts in this race. Just never got the track position back. I think he bounced off a Cosman's car who got shuffled all the way back to 12th after the restart. And just nowhere for the rest of the field to go as they all bobbled around on the apron. This was all a major stack-up effect from right this point on after that, our first couple laps.
Yeah, right here. And then watch for Carper, 17 car right down to the inside. You see the blue car come down and hit him. And then for Carper back up the racetrack. He didn't cause the big crash. It was a chain reaction of cars trying to move up to let the other one back in line.
I believe that was Ryan Carlisle, who was the second sweeper.
I like that too.
And he got help.
Yeah, right here, the 34 and the 23 come together. Like a bin top, Carlisle's car there.
I believe that was Broussard who clipped him there. And Danson.
That late.
It's just been a terrible bad luck race if you're a fan of Matt Danson.
He's picked up a lot of damage too. Not sure where that's come from, but he might go back to just messaging me about running these races instead of actually doing them, because this has not gone well for him. Johnny
I have to say.
Go ahead.
As Baldridge gets the lucky dog, part of me there have to say, Danson usually has a lot of luck go his way, Ryan. Tonight, it seems like everything that he got from his lucky horseshoe just went out the window and went to everybody else.
Yeah, he's a very fast driver. His ranking room certainly proves that, number 6. But I don't think at the moment he's able to do those challenges for Road to Pro and even the Pro, which I'm pretty sure, Justin, you might agree, he does have the pace to do if he would commit himself to it, but he is Australian, and the races run in the middle of the day for us, which means if you have a job, bye-bye Coke Series.
Just make the Coke Series your job. But in all seriousness, he definitely has the pace. It's just, again, about not just availability, but feeling like you have the drive to do it for that particular season, the right car and track combination. This year it's a very difficult schedule, mind you, with a lot of racetracks, which test the abilities of keeping the cars clean and road courses as well. It's about having the proper team around you. I can also put Ryan, I can also put Seth the Merchant in that grouping.
Yeah.
Who ran a lot of races. He's also dropped off and backed off a bit of his campaign for 2020.
Well, talking the team around him, he is teammates with Ashton Crowder, who is a proven race winner in the Coca-Cola Series. They both run with Horizon Racing Team.
Yep. And that's a big part, too, of having that proper pace in some of the Horizon cars, and the reason why Donald Strauss was inside the top 20 before he had his terrible past 2 rounds at Darlington and Dover. A couple other drivers were inside that bubble as well. The pace is there. It's just, again, the mix of having the right strategy, luck, and drive to make it for that particular year.
People say you make your own luck. Trust me, you don't. You've either got luck or you don't get luck sometimes. You always need a little bit of luck for things to get a race win, no matter what the circumstances are. Because if it stays green and you're able to romp home with a 5-second margin, that's a bit of luck going your way. Because if a caution came out, who knows what may have happened. So you always need that lucky charm up your sleeve. And Seth Knowles certainly needs one now, because there's going to be about 6 laps to go on this restart. And the way the racing's been over the last couple, this is going to be wild.
Yeah, we're just talking about that situation with Kerner and the speed penalty may have cost him the race. This just played right into his hands with how quick he's made the car adjustment-wise and for the short pace. Mind you, too, he's got a tire set available if he needs it. So this might have actually just gone from out of his lap to directly back into it, and a high chance of winning it.
So he restarts 8th. The issue now is I don't see anyone coming to pit road. If a caution comes out again, I don't think anyone's going to come, Justin. There's not enough laps left. And their tires aren't terrible. They're still all right.
Yeah, but we're talking 20-plus laps nearly, including the caution flag laps, so about 14 green flag laps. You might have a bit of tire spin here. It might come down to if Kerner has something happen in terms of trouble, feels like he can't get up to the front, and it goes into recovery drive, because you're absolutely right. I don't think they can completely close up in 2 laps to where they may have been, but it's something someone, say, an Atchison might try, or a Jocelyn might try, or something along those lines.
Want to go signal next time by. Do I dare ask who is your pick, Justin?
Whoever survives the entrance of turn 3 and 4 coming to 1 to go.
Yep. I think that's a fair answer and a fair observation. There's definitely an opportunity in 3 and 4 to put the bumper to the race leader if you're there on the white flag lap. Fair game in my eyes, the bump and run, given the opportunity. As long as you don't dump him, Justin, then it becomes a whole other can of worms. But it's part of NASCAR, that contact, that bump. In fact, some of the best finishes in NASCAR have come from that contact.
Possibility, but I don't know if we're going to see it with so many teammates around one another.
Yeah.
Well, I put it this way. In my strategy, you have to really irritate me to be able to put the bumper to the back end of someone's race car. A lot of these drivers are given a lot of give and take tonight, for the most part. Some of the others might be willing to dare it, though, if it means winning this race.
Just think back to the finale of the Coca-Cola iRacing Series last season for, what was it, about 50 grand or something along those lines? No bumper given. And they were well within range heading into the final corner. So, the respect is there for the drivers at the top level. Let's see how this one plays out as we go back under green in Kentucky to Merchant. Trying to split the middle, but he couldn't get there. And Noel has a margin.
No counts now with this race on the line. That's how well partly how Noel got that good jump. But here comes lap traffic coming out of the pit lane.
And Noel just blew up on the radio. And oh, he's down low. Oh! No, that is just absolutely ridiculous. That's a holiday for Guy Sealer.
Wow. What was he thinking?
Guy Sealer.
That just took out most of the field, Ryan.
Guy Sealer, my friend. I don't think I've ever put someone on blast before on a broadcast, Justin, but without a doubt, that is just absolutely ridiculous. And I don't think we'll be seeing Sealer next week in the NASCAR iRacing series.
And say all you wanted the awareness of the drivers coming on that line. It wasn't just the fact that he was coming out of the pit lane and was on the bottom. He pushed up into them.
Yeah.
He just completely pushed right up in the middle of the traffic. And this has to be absolutely infuriating because this just damaged about second on back.
He's trying to defend his actions in the driver's chat too. That's interesting. Yeah. Well. So, where do we go from here? So, who's emerged with a clean car?
Well, I think you
Not
can
many.
definitely say Seth. I don't think anybody else other than maybe Miller. Carter may have avoided some of it. Atchison went from the back end of the top 10 to 6 from that. There's not that many. Maybe 10.
You know, that happened in the Cup Series in real life a few years ago, didn't it? The name escapes me, Justin. Maybe you've got a better memory than me. Yes. He's LePage to the field. Kevin LePage came out of pit road at Daytona, I believe it was, and rejoined right in front of a hungry pack of cars. And that was about a 20, 30 car incident.
That was at Talladega, yes, in the now called Xfinity Series, but
Oh, okay.
you have to be aware of what's going on. You're racing for the win, these lead cars were. You've got to understand that they're focusing on their battle there.
Over under on how many protests he gets?
At least a couple.
Oh, boy.
By the way, it should be, without being said, a green-white checkered, Ryan, from that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm lost for words, Justin. Green light check it then. I'm also listening to the driver's chat right now, Justin. I don't know if you are as well. There is a lot of unhappy people, understandably.
I mean, do you blame them?
No.
We're talking about a majority of the front runners with significant damage are now out. Will Norton? There's a chance he would have won this race if it wasn't for that. He had the car. And the cleaner car, mind you. That's Seth Noel. We've seen others have decent pace up there. And now, drivers who have led laps this race. Mullins has a lot of damage. Now from that incident. This is just wow.
Still another lap to go under this caution period. All right, so Let's try and dissect this. So, Seth Knoll is still our race leader. He was past the incident. Seth the Merchant's got a little bit of damage to his right rear. He's second. He should be fine. James Mullins, his car's reasonably decent. They're in third. So too Robert Miller in fourth. Eddie Kerner's in fifth. There you go. Jesse Atchison, Seth Ryder, Hernandez, Boyd Hogan. Mullins just got asked the question whether he's down on power. His response was, I don't know. Remember too, even the slightest knock to the front end of the car could give them major damage that you can't see until you restart.
Normally you can hold in the clutch and find out if you have engine damage if you're below 2,000 RPMs. It's a sign you do have it. Concerning a little bit is if he can't even tell with that, that's going to absolutely potentially cause a lot of craziness. By the way, the split strategy we talked about before, Boyd Hogan's the first car in that in 10th. So he might steal a top 5 from this if it happens again.
Suddenly, Mullins is in with a shot, and so too Kerner. One to go under the caution. Green light check at attempt number 1 of 3. So you get 3 attempts at a green light check it here on iRacing. The way it works is it's 2-lap dash. We'll get the green flag and we'll race back around to the white flag. If a caution comes out before the white flag is shown, we'll stack them up and try it again until your 3 attempts are done. If we make it back to the white flag, you come back to the checkers no matter what happens, even if the entire field wrecks, which is a scenario that probably won't happen. So, green, white, checkered, and overtime in NASCAR was introduced to promote some green flag finishes, which it has done, and some absolute grandstand finishes at that. What are we going to get here today in Kentucky? This race has been absolutely incredible and has had some twists and turns no one saw coming. What is the latest and last twist in this race? Knoll in control, coming back to the green flag. Green light checkered, attempt number 1 in the NASCAR iRacing Series from Kentucky. Green flag back in the air. Oh, Demerchant's got no speed. And that might be a penalty to a few drivers. Because they had to pass him down low, Justin.
Yeah, you can't pass him on the left. You have to pass him on the right, or else it's a black flag for passing before the start and finish line. That might just have been several drivers, but look at this big run by Knoll. Absolutely big run, and more drivers starting up.
Kerner up into 4th. Mullins is well down on pace. White flag's being taken by Seth Knoll, and he has got a comfortable margin over the field, half a second. And Eddie Kerner is up into 2nd. A fantastic restart, a great recovery drive from him, but he's not going to get there. They're almost 3 wide behind him. But Seth Knoll is going to emerge in front of the chaos, the carnage, and the unbelievable scenes to come home in Kentucky as your race winner. Seth Knoll gets it done in the NASCAR iRacing Series on a Friday night. And
they're crashing for 3rd.
Big wreck across the line.
Well, I don't think that was intentional because there was a drag race for 3rd. But on the bright side, if you're an Nexus fan, it was still a 1-2-3 finish, just not the way I think anyone wrote it up.
Where on earth did Jesse Atchison come from to come home in 3rd place?
From 35th?
Yeah. See if we get a replay of that crash at the finish. There's some hot tempers from that one as well. Here's a replay then. Justin.
Keep in mind, this is a drag race to the line, and I think Hogan was trying to maybe get the door to slow him down, but they were already at the stripe. Just too much of a shot, and just everybody stacked up. 10 plus cars getting incident points from it.
Well, let's take a look at our race results then at the end of an interesting night at Kentucky. Tempers are flaring. Seth Knoll wins from Eddie Kerner in second. What an up and down race for him. Jesse Atchison comes from nowhere to finish third. Boyd Hogan home in fourth. Seth Reiter finishes fifth. Justin Levine, Cosmin Iniosi, Eduardo Oliveira, James Mullins, Ty Polito, the top 10.
11th spot going to Jonathan Hernandez. He got shuffled up the racetrack, coming to the white flag. A 12th spot goes to Jocelyn after being a part of the checkup incident on one of the restarts. Armstrong in 13th. Hickson recovers to 14th after being involved in one of the big ones. And so up to 15th. Campbell 16th. Love, Crump, Jeans, and Hudson come away with top 20 finishes after a wacky one at Kentucky.
I think wacky is the way to run it. Matt Danson ends up coming home in 21st. Johnny Baldridge, Seth the Merchant. What could have been for him? Matt Forcarper as well. Oshie and Walsh. Patrick Moose. Robert Miller. Brassard. Carlisle Mulliken. A lot of names that were up the front until very late in this race. Yeah, top 30 there.
31st, Will Norton. Could have been a race win. This will be painful for that Nexus Esports driver. Had a huge shot at winning this race. Instead, part of that major stack up with the guy behind him on the running order, Guy Sela. A lot of tempers towards his direction, we'll say that much. Richmond finished 33rd, 9 laps down. Pedro Miga with a blown engine finished 34th. Jeffrey and LeVere had early race struggles, had to pit very off-cycle. They finished 35th and 36th.
Let's have a chat then to our race winner, Seth Knoll. First of all, congratulations on a good victory here in Kentucky.
Thank you.
Second of all, what happened? We got to talk about that incident, don't we? You know what we're talking about. That brought us to a green-white checkered. Your view?
I still haven't gotten a chance to look at it, to be honest.
Yeah. Maybe it's best we don't get your view on it, actually. Either way, how'd your race play out before we got towards the end of the race? Had some decent green flag runs early on.
Oh, yeah, the set was good. I overdrove the right front every short run, but I mean, it wasn't like we were bad pace. We were about back half of the top 10, I'd say, and then we got a couple lucky breaks, and then the short runs at the end, we were able to capitalize.
Certainly were. It worked out very well in your favor. Fantastic restart for you. The final one, final two, in fact, looked like maybe before the last two restarts, there was some team help going on with counting down the restart. None of that, it seemed, in the final two.
Yeah, just kind of seeing where the field is and where everyone's stacking up. Just kind of trying to see what's best for the team, whether it's best to work together or just kind of race it out.
How good is it to get a win in the NASCAR iRacing Series, especially on a broadcast here, and for your team as well? Who are the sponsors that help you to make these wins possible?
I got to thank you guys for broadcasting. I mean, I know it's kind of out of y'all's way, so I appreciate every week. Definitely something I'd like to tune into after the race and watch everybody compete. I got to thank Nexus, another quick car. Yeah. I don't know. I don't exactly win a lot of NIS races ever. It's only number 2, so definitely excited to finally get another one.
Hey, man. Well, congratulations. Go and celebrate that one. Let it sink in and have some fun after that one. Good job.
I appreciate it, boys.
So that was Seth Knoll, your race winner here from Kentucky. Now, Justin, I believe you've got Eddie Kerner.
Yes, indeed. And first things first, Eddie, crazy recovery drive after a speeding penalty. Crazy way to get yourself to the field. The first question has to be, what was your viewpoint from that carnage on that caution flag?
Yeah, the wreck with Guy Seeley. I don't know. I saw him come out of pit road, and I saw a lap car out of the corner of my eye because I was more looking in front of me on how I'm going to make it through this. And he made my job easier for me, but it was not. A lot of teammates caught up in that wreck, and I told him in game, I've been on here for 6-7 years now, and that was the worst. Just if it was not intentional, that was the worst mistake I've ever seen, but that looked pretty intentional, which I don't know what purpose it accomplished.
There were a lot of tempers we could hear from over the radio, to say the least, but of course we mentioned the speeding penalty. You were the fastest driver out of anybody on the run. You set the fastest lap of the race coming to the checker flag. What was your mindset like to try and recover from being deep in the field as far back as around 20th after one of the caution flags and that speeding penalty, which, if you didn't get it, would have put you in P2?
Yeah, I was having fun, to be honest with you. The 2 speeding penalties I got were from my wheel. My wheel is connected to my pedals, and the one pin in there is very sensitive, and sometimes it won't function properly. I'll have to adjust it. And so when that happens, my throttle gets kind of locked, and that happened on both pit stops when I came down pit road. So it forced me to get speeding penalties both on the green flag pit stop and then the second yellow one. Coming through the field though was fun. The setup was stupid fast. It's been really quick this week. A lot of thanks to Will Miller and James Mullins and Patrick Moose for putting work on in the setup. At one point there we had the top 7, so the setup is just on point. But making the passes and through there, coming up through the field a couple of those times it was a fun little journey. So yeah.
Now on that point, it's been a strong season for you across the iRacing service. NIS, you nearly came away with your second victory of the week alone with this particular setup. Road to Pro, you just quietly moved your way up with the drops factored in into the top 5 in those point standings. What is the environment like when it comes to Nexus? Because I heard there's a lot of members, yes, but whatever you guys did throughout 2020, the speed's been clicking since the first date of January.
As a team, everyone's just come more together. I joined the team at the end of the last year's Road to Pro season, and it's a really nice community. We do have a lot of drivers, but it's a really tight-knit community. Everyone's on. We have a TeamSpeak. Everyone's on TeamSpeak every day, and everyone enjoys each other's company. And the setups have just been on the A-car side, again with Patrick Moose, James Mullins, and Robert Miller putting together setups. And then on the Road to Pro side, Jarrett Liebert, James Wenzel, Robert's also helping on the Road to Pro side. But we just had amazing team effort on both ends.
On that, Mark, is there anyone you want to thank for being a part of what was officially a team 1-2-3 tonight, with you being the second driver in that pack?
Again, thank you to our setup builders, and shout out to Seth. I know he's been wanting a win here for a little while, so happy for Seth to get a win. But it's just been a great year for Nexus, and hopefully we can continue this on at the end of Road to Pro. And it looks like we're going to have a few people in the Pro Series. Hopefully we can carry this on to the Pro Series as well.
Yeah, 3 of your teammates after last Tuesday's race, should know, were calculated to be potentially locked in for the Pro Series. Just so you know. But with that, congratulations on a second place finish, Kerner.
Thank you. And thank you all for broadcasting.
That was Eddie Kerner coming home in second tonight, plus 22 through the field tonight, Ryan.
Good drive for him, and he'll be happy with that. So now let's head to our final interview. Let's have a chat to Boyd Hogan, who was up and down like a yo-yo in the end. Boyd coming home in 4th place. Got to be happy with that after the way the race played out.
Yeah, no kidding. Like we haven't been able to finish one of these off in quite some time. usually it's been a very competitive car. So I got to thank everybody at Legacy Esports and Slip Angle for that. But yeah, just trying some stuff for Coke and for those guys for tonight, and it didn't work too well on the long run, obviously. But short run, it was there for sure. And I think we had the freshest tires of the bunch at the end there, so strategy kind of worked out for once, and got the top 5.
Totally did. A bit of contact coming to the line between yourself and I believe it was Jesse Atchison. Your thoughts on that?
Oh, that was 100% on me. I was just trying to give Jesse a little bit of a bump and see if we could beat him in the line, but misjudged how far away he was. Got together a little bit and wrecked some stuff at the end. But apologies to those guys. I'm good friends with Jesse, so no hard feelings there. I've already talked to him. We're all good. It's good to see him bringing it home third. Always good to see him run good, and congrats to Noodle on the win. Everybody over at Nexus, they're killing it for sure.
Just some good hard racing there towards the end. Now, how wide were your eyes with the other crash just before that one?
Well, there were a couple instances where I thought we were done, and that one actually I didn't see any of because I was so close on the car in front of me. I think it was my teammate Justin Levine, and he was saying go as hard left as we can. So that's what we did. I think I was in the grass at one point, and he was right on the apron. So glad we could make it through there and live to fight another day.
Good job today. Certainly a good drive from the, especially after starting down the order on 20th. You didn't qualify, or you did qualify, but it was a bad qualifying effort for you. What went wrong there?
No, I qualified on the race setup, just trying to make sure that that the nose was sealed off, and had a couple last minute adjustments had to throw into the car, and we started off the race. It was just a little bit too snug, but made adjustments throughout, and I was running competitive times with the leaders. I know right around the first set of stops right at the end of the run, and I think we would have had something for him if we started up front and had the track position. But I guess we'll see on Sunday.
That's right. One of your race starts, you dropped like a rock through the field. I believe it was when we had the caution under the middle of the green flag pit stop cycle. What was the story there? Because you look like you were on a completely different track to some of the others. You were really struggling.
Yeah, no, I was trying to short pit just because I was talking to a couple of the guys who have run a little bit more this week in our cup car, and they were saying track position was really big. So I figured we were gonna have a decently long green flag run. So I pit around lap 50, I think it was, and when everything cycled out, I think it was gonna be top 5, and it just we got the caution. I don't know, probably 10 laps into the run on tires, and it was too soon to justify coming down and grabbing the second to last set at the time, and so it was just we decided to bite the bullet right there and lose whatever position we can and see what happens and see if we get the late race yellows like you do so often in these, and like I said, it's good to be on the right side of that for once. And
good drive.
We were.
Yeah. Who gets it done for you then, Boyd?
Well, like I said, everybody at Bobby Earnhardt's Legacy Esports. Bobby himself, he's always helping out, doing what he can. Everybody on Slip Angle, Dustin Hall, Dustin Johnson had a big role in the car. Travis Manning, there's a lot of guys over there working on race cars, and it's always good to be able to come out here on Friday nights and put on a show for you guys. So big thanks to SimSpeed for putting it on. Butt Kicker, a Bruzy, all of our partners at Legacy Esports.
Congratulations on a good drive, a good top 5 finish, and best of luck next time out in the NASCAR iRacing Series.
Thanks, sir.
Boyd Hogan home in 4th, and that'll wrap us up for today, Justin. Your final thoughts on a intriguing night of racing?
I think it was a good 90% of the race, and then what happened. I think there's going to be a lot of angry emotions towards him, and he might never live that down with that move. It was one of the most ridiculous moves I think either of us have seen. How he recovers from that and tries to rebuild his reputation is going to be very paramount for how he does on his rest of his time in the iRacing service, depending on when that is. But overall, we've seen many drivers challenged by the difficulties of Kentucky We've seen the dominating teams continue their domination, and we've seen some solid drives, mind you, for some teams with the smaller organizations who rolled off the dice, and in a lot of cases, it worked out for them for some top 10s, such as Ty Ippolito with AOD Racing, once again, a second straight one, mind you, Ryan, on Friday night. How these drivers tackle New Hampshire, though, it could get hectic. Let's put it that way.
Certainly can. Make sure you tune in next week at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I'm in Australia. I forgot then. Yeah, make sure you tune in next week, Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, for your next dose of the NASCAR iRacing series right here on the iRacing Esports Network, brought to you by SimSpeed TV. Make sure you go and like SimSpeed Esports Network as well on social media as well to stay up to date with all of our latest broadcasts. Been a pleasure calling this one for you. My name is Ryan Jones. That was Justin Prince alongside me and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes for tonight. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's going in the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get involved.
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go.
Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?